Welcome to the Wednesday Match Play, your weekly connection to the biggest and best brands in golf. On this show, you will learn more about the latest golf fashion trends, hear from LPGA and PGA Tour players, get advice on planning your next golf getaway, and much more. Broadcasting live from Bonita Springs, Florida, please welcome your host, on the tee, Ricky Potts.
Bernard Sheridan is a certified Impact Zone teaching professional with Bobby Clampett's Impact Zone Golf. He is also the host of the Breaking Par podcast and is my personal teaching professional. Impact Zone Golf is located in Naples, Florida, with an indoor studio in North Naples and their outdoor studio located at Tiburón Golf Club at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Resort, Naples. On this episode of the Wednesday Match Play podcast, you will learn more about the Impact Zone teaching philosophy, the laundry list of certifications that Bernard has, and whether or not he thinks Tiger will break Jack's record. Bernard is a good friend of mine too, and I am always honored to spend time with him. Let's jump into it. Bernard, welcome to the Wednesday Match Play podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ricky.
Always exciting to have you on the show, and we're going to focus on this episode with Impact Zone. Now, we've had you on the show in the past talking about breaking par and all the things that you do. I see you on an almost daily basis, and it was fitting to just have you come back, and we haven't really talked about your role with Impact Zone. So let's start there. And anybody at home that's not familiar with Impact Zone, that's Bobby Clampett's philosophy and his studio and his training outfit that's based here in Naples at Tiburón Golf Club. So let's start with Bobby. How did you and Bobby Clampett first connect?
Well, basically, it's kind of a funny story, but I was reading the book that Bobby wrote, and so it was very similar to a book that I was writing at the time. So because I'm always studying and listening and paying attention to what other people do in the industry so that I can learn from them. And so essentially what happened was when I read this book, I realized that a lot of what was in this book was what I was putting in my book. It was different. It was a little bit different in the way he was wording it, but it was very, very similar. So I thought to myself, well, there's not much sense in me writing this book anymore, because I'll be sued for plagiarism probably. So I figured I'm going to take a different route here. I'm going to reach out to Bobby Clampett and find out what he has, to offer, and talk to him about this stuff. So this was about, I want to say, around 8 years ago. Maybe a little bit more than 8 years ago. So at that time, Bobby said, I actually talked to his wife, which is Mariana Clampett, and she's actually the president of the company. And we had a conversation, and she said, well, we have, we're certifying instructors. Would you be interested in becoming a certified instructor? And I said, absolutely. I would love to do that. I think that's a great idea. So that's how it kind of started. And I was one of the first certified instructors. So then as time went on, Bobby decided that he was going to retire from the Champions Tour and build an academy in Southwest Florida. And he had at that time no idea exactly where it was going to be. But he asked me if I would be interested in being part of that. I was like, well, let me think about this. Okay. It took me like no time
for that.
It took me like no time to think about it. I mean, I've always wanted to be in the Naples area, as to instruct, and I've worked diligently to try to make that happen. And fortunately enough, the stars lined up, and now I'm basically a senior staff instructor at Impact Zone Golf, and have been here for a little over 3 years, about 3.5 years now. I just think it's a wonderful place to work and a wonderful place to live. I mean, the entire area is just fantastic.
Well, that is awesome. And it was, you and I had actually connected a long time before I moved to Southwest Florida. And I hadn't even put two and two together until one day you said on Twitter, hey, I work out of Tiburón Golf Club. And here we are a few years later now. I've been with the club for a little over 2 years. And you and I work together on an almost daily basis, whether we're just talking via Twitter or we're on the range. So when we're working together on the range, you've always got a drill, regardless of what I need work with or help on. You've always got a drill for that. So you share a lot of that stuff on your website and on YouTube. Tell me a little bit more about the content that you are producing as an instructor and where people that are listening at home can learn more about you and all of your teachings.
So I have content like all over the place. I have content on the Golf Channel. I have content on GolfWorks. I have content on Impact Zone site. I have content on my own site. I have content on my YouTube channel. I put out content on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, which won't be around for too much longer, unfortunately, and a social site called Club Face Golf, which is out of Europe. And I put at least one instructional tip or something that has to do with golf daily on all of those formats, except for like my website. But all the social formats I post every single day. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at B Sheridan Golf. And then I'm also on Facebook. And there's two things that I have on Facebook. One is Bernard Sheridan. The other one is my podcast, which is Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan. I probably post more instructional stuff on the Breaking Par Facebook page than I do on my personal Facebook page. I might do some things here and there, but that's I mean, I have stuff out there a lot of different places, and I've been doing it for quite a long time. I was like one of the first swing fix instructors for the Golf Channel. So at that time, when they were hiring people to do online lessons, they were having us contribute to content with articles and blog posts and things like that to the Golf Channel. So that's when I did that. And then when they finally abolished that, then of course we weren't doing that anymore. And at that time too, I was doing stuff with GolfWorks, but I haven't written anything for them for either one of those two sites for quite a while now, probably about 5 years.
Well, you are definitely a content creator. I feel like you are creating more content than any golf professional that I can think of off the top of my head. And it's either you're creating the amount of content or you're really good at tagging people and the right people in that content. So at least the right people are seeing your content, and it's always timely, whether it's something that I'm working on or it's never just the cookie cutter stuff that you see in a lot of golf publications or on a lot of golf blogs. It's very focused and very consistent to not only what you're doing on the lesson tee, but to Bobby Clampett and the impact zone. So what is the impact zone? Give us a little bit of an overview of that teaching philosophy and what the impact zone is all about.
So really, if we look at traditional instruction across the board, and it's getting better now, thank goodness. But for a very long time, traditional instruction was basically style-based instruction. You would go to an instructor, he might throw up a PGA Pro and say, hey, this is how his swing is. Look at the position is he in here. Look at where he is at the top of his backswing. Look at where he is at impact. Look at where he is at his finish. Look at where he is right past impact. You would need to get in these positions. And so, but what Bobby and I know that myself have always thought, and that's why I align so well with Bobby, because I've always had this same mindset, is that every personal swing is like a fingerprint. It's uniquely you. So what we have to do, and what Impact Zone does, is we don't change your style swing, but what we do is we look at what we call 5 dynamics that happen in all great players' swings. And we're always checking those dynamics to make sure that you're producing them. The better that you can produce those five dynamics consistently, then and you can attest to this, your scores are going to drop, your handicap is going to drop, you're going to become a better player. So those five dynamics that we check are dynamic number one is a flat lead wrist at impact. So that kind of stabilizes the club face and causes, if the lead wrist is flat and actually kind of at the front leg at impact, then that will cause a little bit of shaft lean, which will allow the player to have dynamic two happen. And dynamic two is that the club makes us an arc when it swings, and the bottom of the arc wants to always be in the same spot. And that spot is 4 inches in front of the center of the ball. So that means that then if that happens, then the ball will be high enough on the club face to hit right on the sweet spot or very close to it, and compress the ball more and actually get the proper spin on the ball and have you strike the ball first and then take a divot. Number three is loading the club properly on the backswing and making sure that once the club is fully loaded, the shaft is at a 90-degree angle to your lead arm. So basically that's going to help produce and load power into the club head and the shaft. So now on the way down, as you start the downswing, we want to create lag. And we all know that many great players create lag on the downswing. And all great players create some type of lag on the downswing, or they would end up hitting the ball fat or thin. The way that we do that is by using the core, or what we call the workhorse, to deliver the club, which helps maintain that lag. And then the fifth dynamic is delivering the club shaft down a straight plane line, which is essentially the target line. So the way that we check that is we look at when the club is parallel to the ground on the downswing, it needs to be parallel to the target line. And after impact, once it becomes parallel to the ground on the forward swing, it also wants to be in front of the player and parallel to the ground and parallel to the target line. So those are the 5 points that we constantly are checking and making sure that the player can produce those to their best of their ability. The big one, I believe, is delivering with the workhorse that helps produce those dynamics. And all great players do it.
So there are a lot of really good golf movies out there, some better than others. I'm partial to Happy Gilmore, Tin Cup. What are some of your favorite golf movies? And I have a feeling you're going to say Caddyshack is one of yours.
Well, I do love Caddyshack. Caddyshack is a great golf movie. I mean, and I love Bill Murray and that, it's a Cinderella story. That it just cracks me up, and I've always liked that character. I really love The Greatest Game Ever Played, and because that's the one where the Francis Ouimet, wins the U.S. Open as an amateur, and that to me was just an awesome. I thought it was a very good representation of that time frame, that time period. Harry Vardon, and it's just so cool.
So the USGA recently announced a laundry list of rules changes. For the first time, now you can take 3 minutes versus 5 minutes to search for the ball. You can leave the pin in while you're putting. You can double hit the golf ball, which I think is just absurd because that's just crazy to think that that's a single stroke. Tiger, just not that long ago, before the rules changes, had a double hit, and he wasn't called on it. But care to comment on some of these changes, and do you think that they're going to help pace of play, which has been kind of the focus of these changes overall?
I think that maybe not pulling the pin and being able to putt with the pin in might speed up play a little bit. I know that we've been taking juniors out on the course the past few days and leaving the flag pin in, and it has seemed to pick up pace a little bit. Then it pulling the pin and then going back and forth, and and things like that. I think that some of the rules that they're allowing or changing aren't going to make any impact on how, like that a caddy can't help a player read his putt. Well, I mean, number one, there's not that many people who have caddies at every round that they play. And I don't think that if a caddy would read the putt or give advice to his player, and I'm talking about the recreational player. Like we go to players come to Tiburón, they have 4 caddies. If the 4 caddy if he's out there and he's talking to the player and he says to the player, look, it's going to break like this. It looks like this, but it's really going to break like that. To me, that would speed up play, not slow down play.
Absolutely, for recreational players, for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm not that crazy about that one. And then some of the others I think, are kind of silly. They don't kind of make sense. And the double hit thing I think is kind of ridiculous. I think that should have standed the way it was. I think that dropping the ball from knee height is ridiculous too.
It looks ridiculous.
It just makes no sense to me. I mean, it makes more sense to me that at shoulder height, your arm straight out, drop the ball. That because if you think about when a ball lands, when it's flying in the air, when it lands, it's landing from a lot higher than your knee height. So I mean, not that it's landing a lot higher than your shoulder height too, but I just think that that one is just kind of, I don't really agree with that one. The rest of them are here and there to me. Anything that's going to speed up play, I think is good, because it's going to get more people to want to play. Because if I know that for me, when I used to play often, I would purposely never play on the weekend because I knew it would be a 5 or 6 hour round because everybody's playing on the weekend. And I would always play during the week so I could get in a 3.5 hour round, even if I was playing with a couple of other players. It wouldn't be that difficult for me to do that. I could get, if I was playing by myself on a fairly open course, I could get through the entire course in like an hour and 40 minutes. So I'm a big component of anything that's going to speed up play.
Technology has come a long way in terms of golf instruction. I know you use TrackMan a lot. What other technology are you using either at the Impact Zone Studios, which we'll talk about here in a few seconds, or on the lesson tee?
I don't use a tremendous amount of technology, but I do use technology on a regular basis. And I believe my opinion on technology is it's very much like if we look at a dentist, okay? And we look at a dentist like maybe 30 years ago, and some of the technology that a dentist has today makes what he does so much more efficient and easier and more streamlined and helps his patients quicker and more efficiently. I believe that technology is that way with lessons, and I don't give my students a whole lot of information about the technology that I'm, or the information, the data that I'm gathering. I give them tidbits of that data, same as a doctor would give you tidbits of an X-ray, or, he would point one thing out, but he wouldn't go into the whole ball of wax because it can be confusing. It can even be confusing for some instructors. But we use TrackMan and we also use Foresight. Both are great launch monitors. I believe that, in my opinion, that Foresight gives a little bit better face-to-path relationship and where the ball is on the face than TrackMan does. And TrackMan, I think, is a little bit better when it comes to the exact numbers for what the ball actually did and how fast it was spinning and how far it carried and how far it continued to release. We also use Swing Catalyst, which is a pressure board that a student can stand on, and we can see what their pressure and their center of pressure is doing throughout their swing. That helps tremendously because now we can understand where the player's pressure is at impact and where it is to a finish, and whether that helps us decide whether their body is really stalling in the swing. Because sometimes you can look at the swing and you really don't see a stall with your eye. But you can really see that in data with Swing Catalyst. We also use K-Coach, which allows us to put it on the player and look at the player 3D and get the player. Let's say we have a player who has a problem with separation of upper and lower body. We can set it so that they can practice that and make that happen a little bit easier. They hear a tone when they do it correctly. If they don't do it correctly, they hear nothing. So this is a good way for them to get that together. And then we have a simulator. We also use SandPutt, which is science in motion putting, which gives us 28 different parameters of the putting stroke. So we do have a good amount of technology that we use. I use some lasers sometimes for aiming purposes, so that I can turn it on and off and a player can see. I have it on the target line. Player sets up. I say to them, do you think you're aimed at the target? They say, yeah. I turn on the laser and they see they're not. So there's some things like that I use, and training aids that I would consider basically kind of technology. But out and out technology, of course, video also, high speed video, and which always helps. The key with video is you have to make sure the camera angle is perfect, because if it's not, it'll make you see things that are an illusion, that aren't really happening.
You mentioned the studio. I'm curious. I've spent a lot of time there as well. Do you prefer to teach indoors at the studio, or do you like to get outside onto green grass?
I like both. I enjoy lessons in both places. It all depends on what I'm trying to accomplish and what I want to get across to the student. The nice thing about the studio is you're in a controlled environment. So you're never dealing with the elements, and you're not dealing with wind or outside noise or distractions or things of that nature. The other thing that I like about the studio is that the monitors that we have there are nice and big. It's really easy to see the swing, as opposed to looking at, let's say, on a tablet or a laptop. So we do have a laptop out on the range, but it's still not as nice as seeing a nice big big HD screen in front of you, and having a couple of screens, two different screens, as opposed to switching back and forth from one window to another on a on a laptop. But I enjoy both, and there's a lot of things that I can do in the studio that I can't do outside, and there's a lot of things that I can't do outside that I can do in the studio. So it's both of them I enjoy a lot, and I really enjoy probably the most what we do the most, and that is you and I, and that is going out on the course and working with a player on the golf course itself.
And as a player, I like that as well, because I can sit there and beat balls all day on the range, but until I put it into use on the course where I'm having those issues during my round, I'm not able to really put what I'm learning on the range into play until we're out there on the golf course. Now, this podcast has been around for a few years now, but you also have a podcast. Give us an overview of the Breaking Par podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast started about a little over 4 years ago. And it started out for me as a vehicle to inform my students and other people out on the planet of my take on instruction and tips and things to help players improve their game. So the first 40 episodes were basically me talking to a microphone for a half an hour. I would pick a topic and I would talk about that topic. It might have been, how to pick a good golf instructor and what to look for in your golf instructor. Or it might have been chipping and and what you do to chip and different scenarios that you're going to encounter when you're chipping. It might have been how to get your junior in a scholarship. It could have been, all different subjects. So after about 40 episodes, I felt like I was running out of ideas. So I decided that I was going to start to interview other instructors and get their take on the game and what they thought. And the other thing that I wanted to do was bring those instructors to the forefront of people so they knew they existed. Because there's many instructors that people, I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of people who have no idea who I am at all. And right in Naples, they have no idea who I am. And I've been in Naples for over 3 years. So you would think that, more people would know me there because I've been there for a while. But that was a good vehicle for me to get myself out there and to help other instructors get out there, help them. So I recorded up to this point 186 episodes. I am still on iTunes, and I am on Spotify. I'm on Stitcher Radio, and I'm on SoundCloud. Right now, I'm taking a break. I usually would do an episode a week, and I did it, and I wouldn't have seasons. I would just keep going, but I decided that I'm going to do seasons now, and I'm going to make not as many episodes per year, because I have so many out there now that people can go back and listen to because they're still relevant. They're very relevant to what's going on today in golf. And so I'm kind of backing off a little bit. And I think another reason why I'm backing off a little bit is because I'm becoming busier as an instructor now too. Now that I've pretty much seated myself in the Naples area, and I'm starting to get recognized as a better instructor in that area. So I'm getting more clients.
What's great about you slowing down, not great because we love the content, but this show, the Wednesday Match Play podcast, is going to get away from seasons, and we're going to be doing episodes weekly just going forward. The goal is to do 52 episodes a year, and hopefully with the transition into that, we can continue to produce high quality content with high quality guests like yourself, and getting away from the season mentality. I don't have to worry about slowing down and stopping and trying to figure out where we're going to record and who we're going to record with. So it's gives me a chance to catch up to your episode total. I think we're at 125 episodes of this show, and the way I look at it, I'm just rounding first. So I look forward to the next 52 and beyond. Now, Cameron,
it won't take long. It won't take long to catch up.
I'm telling you, I'm on my
far behind. 1 year and you'll catch up, and I'm definitely slowing down. I'll probably end up, eventually not doing it anymore, just because of other commitments that I have. And it's just, and I have to decide, what am I more committed to? I'm mostly committed to my personal students. That's what I'm mostly. They come first.
So during the QBE shootout here at Tiburón in December of 2018, Cameron Champ, who ironically enough became a quick friend of mine that's a story in itself. He hit a golf ball in the back nine on the Gold Course over 400 yards, went over a green that I'm lucky if I've got a short iron into. And I'm curious your thoughts on how far these guys are hitting the ball. Is it just pure strength and flexibility, or do you think the equipment needs to be rolled back? I mean, these guys are running out of golf courses.
Well, I think that number one, it's youth. Okay. Youth is king. And these guys that are coming up today, we have to understand a lot about what these guys are doing today that they weren't doing like 20, 30 years ago. One of those things, of course, is fitness and physical strength and conditioning. The average golfer on tour wasn't doing that 30 years ago. And probably one of the only guys who was doing it 30 years ago was Gary Player. And that's it. So when Tiger came on the scene, he started to do that, and it changed a lot of the way people look at golf. not only they look at it more as that they're athletes that are playing this game. 30 years ago, they didn't think that most golfers were athletes, even though they were. They definitely were. I mean, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Bernhard Langer, Bobby Clampett, all these guys are tremendous athletes. They're absolutely tremendous athletes. And if anybody thinks, even Greg Statler, tremendous athlete, okay, when he was, he was a heavier guy. May not have looked like he was in shape, and John Daly, tremendous athlete, may not look like he's in shape, but he's still a tremendous athlete. He's not as young as he used to be, though. So youth, of course, equipment is making a difference. Do I think they're going to run out of real estate? They might, but what might also happen is if they don't run out of if they do run out of real estate, they just might not be pulling the driver out as often. I don't think that they're going to make courses longer to accommodate as far as these guys are hitting. And I do not think that they are going to change the ball for them, as Jack suggested. I don't think that will ever happen. And I think the reason why is because amateurs want to play, or at least they want to believe that they're playing exactly what the pros are playing. And they want to play the same rules that exactly what the pros are playing. But if they have kick-ins and stuff like that, they'll go, well, I'm not a PGA pro, so what the heck do you expect? I'm not on tour,
Bingo.
So, right. So, which is kind of comical. But if you were to say to them, okay, you guys are playing a ball that's juiced up, and the guys on tour, or you guys are going to play the ball that's now, and the guys on tour, they're going to take a ball, they're going to dial it back so that they're not hitting it over 300 yards. So it's impossible for them to hit it over 300 yards. Then everybody's going to go like, well, what the heck? Then, what am I measuring myself against? Because there's a lot of amateur players who want to measure themselves against what these tour pros are doing, even though they could never, ever even dream of being that good. In their heart, they want to measure themselves against what those guys are doing. So if they do pull it off every once in a blue moon, they feel like they're a tour pro. It's a big ego booster, which we all need too, of course.
You have a lot of certifications, and I feel like you've got a lot of different logos on your website. And if it's anything that you can be certified in, I feel like you go out there and you get it. So talk to me about a couple of those certifications and what it entailed to become an Impact Zone certified instructor. Okay.
Yeah. So Impact Zone certified was an online course first, which basically was about 10 hours of video and that you had to watch. You had to read the book and you had to watch that. And then you had to take a test of 100 questions. You had to get 90% or better to be certified. Then there was a second certification. And again, it was very similar to the same thing, which got me to a advanced instructor. And now I'm a senior staff instructor. And that's through what I have demonstrated in my ability to teach and to help students improve in the company and for the time that I've been in good standing with the company. So that's Impact Zone certification. I have many other certifications. I have a SAMPUT. I'm a level 2. That was basically about an 8-hour program. And that was actually seminars that were 8 hours of seminars. And then you were tested after those seminars. And that's how you got those certifications. I am a Mizuno certified club fitter, which I really don't do anymore.
Mizuno, I play Mizuno, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, great. Yeah, awesome clubs. Awesome clubs. I am a U.S. Kids certified instructor. That was, again, going to a seminar, which was an all-day thing, and then taking tests and passing those tests. I am I got to keep thinking about this. I am a Swing Catalyst level 2 certified. That was the same thing. I would go to seminars, and then you're at the end of those seminars, you take the test, and if you pass the test, then you get your certification. So many moons ago, not too many moons ago, but a good while ago, I'm also a putting zone certified, which is Jeff Mangum, and the way that he teaches putting. I'm a certified coach in that. But many years ago, what I spoke to someone who I knew and respected, Dom DiGiulio, who was a young guy who became a top 100 instructor fairly quickly. And I mentioned to him, I said, Dom, I called him up. I said, Dom, what do I got to do to become a top 100 instructor? I said, it's going to bring me more students if I become a top 100 instructor. He said, Vern, get certified in everything that you can. He said, because when you do, you're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to start to network with people. They're going to get to know you. The way you become a top 100 instructor is you're voted in by your peers. And they also are looking at, do you have these certifications? How certified are you to be a top 100 instructor? So that's what started me on that quest. I'm still not a top 100 instructor, and to tell you the truth, it doesn't really matter to me anymore. But I'm constantly re-upping my certifications because not only does that make me more knowledgeable about what I'm doing, but it allows me to service my clients much better. And when they look at my list of certifications, that's impressive to them. So because I have a lot of knowledge in many different areas of the game.
So when someone's booking a lesson for the first time, they find an instructor, they pick you, hey, I'm going to book a lesson. I've never played golf before, or this is the first lesson that I've taken. And do you recommend to them, hey, book one lesson and let's just have a discovery? Or do you say, hey, let's book 3, 5, 7, just to make sure that we get a good base set? What would you recommend to someone that's taking lessons for the first time?
I first would need to know what they want to achieve to make a recommendation. But if it was a recreational golfer and he's saying, look, I don't want to be a scratch player. I just want to be a little bit more consistent. And when I go to these outings and things like that, I want to be able to play and not feel embarrassed. So what I would say is minimum, take at least 10 to 20 lessons and do it on a weekly basis, because it takes time to ingrain a new motion, and it takes time, and you have to be under a watchful eye to make sure that you're constantly tweaking those positions or that motion, because that motion can get off a little bit. And when you don't see your coach over a few weeks, it starts to get further off, but you don't realize it. Then you start hitting the ball all over the place. Then a lot of guys and gals, they panic and they get upset. And then they think, well, I took it didn't work or whatever. But the reason why it didn't work is because you didn't stick with the program. So it's kind of like if you go on a diet, right? You don't go on a diet unless you want to lose 5 pounds, let's say. But you don't go on a diet and want to be healthy without sticking to that diet and doing it every day and checking what you need to do every day and basically changing your lifestyle. So if you want to become a really good golfer, then it's like you have to change your golfing lifestyle. You have to see your coach at least once a week. You have to do the drills that your coach gives you on a daily basis. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing that. It could be 15 minutes, but it will make a huge difference. And it's a lot. I attain golf a lot to be like music. If you were going to go take guitar lessons or learn how to play piano because you wanted to go to your family's reunion and play piano for everybody, you wouldn't just go take 1 or 2 lessons. You would have to take lessons for a while. And so, or else you would just go there and play one song and that would be it. You'd want to be able to play a half a dozen songs, or, maybe be the life of the party. If you're taking music lessons, you're not just going to take one lesson. You're going to take several until you reach the level that you want to be.
That's a good way to look at it. And I think that anyone listening, that myself included, I get frustrated on the golf course and I'm like, I'm done taking lessons. And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out what's broken and fix it. And I need to be more focused on the long haul, because when you and I started working together, my index has dropped by a couple of points, and it's frustrating because, I go out and I shoot 81, I lose 4 golf balls, and I'm thinking I just shot 81 with 4 lost golf balls. And puts it all into perspective that how close I am, but to someone that is starting for the first time, they need to put that time and that effort into the game of golf. And that's not you as an instructor trying to sell more lessons. That's you as an instructor trying to make sure that the person that's trying to book the lessons gets the most out of the lessons that they book.
Exactly.
Now, one of the cool things.
I'm never trying to sell more lessons. I'm trying to help my students. I want them to reach their goal.
Absolutely. Now, tell me about Operation 36. This is a really cool thing that you do with Impact Zone.
Well, it's funny, but believe it or not, we don't do the Operation 36 anymore.
Well, then I'm just pulling the plug. That question's out of here. I loved it. What happened?
Yeah, so we're doing Discover Golf now, and it's a much better program, we feel.
So what is that? Tell me what Operation 36 was and what is Discover Golf.
Okay, so Operation 36 was an application, and there were several different things that kids would do and activities that kids would do to help them learn golf better. But the biggest thing that Operation 36 was to get kids on the course and get them out playing golf and getting them to shoot even par. Now, that's not easy to do if you take what most people have always done when they're taking kids out is they'll put them on the family tee and not all courses have family tees, or U.S. kids golf tees, and not a lot of courses have those. Or they put them on the front tee and they'd have them play the hole. And the odds of a kid who's 8 years old making a par from the ladies' tee, okay, which is the front tee, or maybe a senior tee if that's ahead of the ladies' tee, I'm not sure on some courses, is very slim. And that's discouraging to anyone because they want to have fun. So this program started them at 25 yards and then moved them back incrementally, and it would make every single hole a par 4. So if it was a par 3, a par 4, a par 5, it didn't matter. It started 25 yards, and every hole was a par 4, and they had to shoot 36 for 9 holes. Hence the reason why it was called Operation 36, to get them to shoot even par. If they shot even par from 25 yards, they moved back to 50 yards. And then if they shot 36 from 50 yards, they moved to 100. Then they moved to 150, then to 200, then to 250, then to the first tee. So this gave them an opportunity to learn how to score and to play from a distance that their ability level was. It had nothing to do with their age level. It had to do with their ability level. So we would have kids from like 6 years old, so 14 years old, and they'd all be starting at 25 yards. And 16-year-old or a 15-year-old would say, or a 14-year-old would say, what the heck? I don't 25 yards. That's ridiculous. And so I would say to them, I'll tell you what, a tour pro from 25 yards, if they were doing this, which for 9 holes, would shoot a 22. So let's see if you can shoot 22 for 9 holes from 25 yards. Think you can do that? A lot of them couldn't even shoot 36. Now, with the Discover Golf, which is the program we're doing now, which we've just adapted, there are a tremendous amount of games that the kids play when they come for the instructional part. And they're really not getting instruction as much as the games are getting them to be instructed without even knowing it. And it's amazing how it works. And then you take them out there and you say, remember when you were on the green and we did this? That is the same thing. All of a sudden they're doing it and they feel comfortable. Now we also start them, what we start them at is 20 yards. and we move them back in 20-yard increments. And every time they shoot an even par for that distance, we allow them to move back another 20 yards. They don't have to do a whole 9 holes. They just do one hole. If they shoot a 4 on from 20 yards, the next hole they're shooting from 40 yards. The hole after that they're shooting from 60. Then they're shooting from 80. Then 100. Then 120. And they keep going back until they're on the ladies' tee. But it's a great program. The kids love it because everything in the weekly stuff, when we're not on the course, it's all gamified. So everything they're doing is a game, and they're gaining points, and then when they gain the points, they win, and then at the end, when they win, they get a reward for their team. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Now I want to do Operation 36. That sounds so much fun. I never did that before you stopped. Now I want to do it.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I'm a big Tiger Woods fan, and I bet you knew this question was coming. Be careful how you answer this because we spend a lot of time together. Do you think that Tiger breaks Jack's record? Why or why not? And I'll just sit back and listen. I won't even try to argue with you. Whatever you say.
I do not think that it's impossible. For me to go on the record to say, yes, Tiger will break Jack's record, I don't think that anybody knows that. Would I like to see it happen? You're darn right I'd like to see it happen. Tiger has done more for this game, to bring a spotlight on this game, to change the face of the game more than anybody in the history of the game. Some people might argue with me and say that Arnold Palmer was really the guy who did that, and accomplished more in golf in changing the game or bringing more people to the game than Tiger. But Tiger opened the game to the masses, to every race and ethnicity out there, and could touch people that Arnie couldn't. And Arnie was, of course, amazing at what he did to the game. But the other thing that Tiger has done for the game is raised the purses and changed the way that what goes on in the game as the way players are paid. I mean, there's many players now who make more in a year than guys who played in the 80s made their entire career.
And we can tip our cap to Tiger for that. Phil Mickelson is a millionaire because of Tiger Woods.
You're darn right. You're darn right. All of them are millionaires due to Tiger because of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is the guy who did all that, who changed the game. But do I think that it's possible for Tiger to do it? Yeah, I do think it's possible for Tiger to do it. Jack won his last major when he was 46. Tiger's just turned 43. That gives him 3 more years. But what we have to remember is that even though Tiger had many injuries and things like that, Tiger is when you're 43 today, you're a much younger 43 today than you were when Jack was 46. It's more like if we took Jack at 46 and put him today, it would be more like he was 56. And that's just due to medical science. So that says to me, that gives Tiger a window that is much larger for opportunity for him to close the gap. So, and I think that Tiger will have the potential, if he stays healthy, and that's the key. If he stays healthy, I think he'll have the potential to break that record and still, or maybe even still win a major when he's like 49 or 50, just because of his physical, of what his physical being and the shape that he's in. And I think when it came to the mental capacity of the game, him and Jack were pretty much dead even. But I think when it came to the physical part, Tiger could really dominate. And for anyone to say that Jack had less competition or Tiger had less competition than Jack is not true. More great golfers now than ever. And they were all in the game because of Tiger Woods.
Well, whatever happens next, it is going to be sure fun to watch. And speaking of what happens next, what's next for you in Impact Zone Golf?
Well, what's next for me is to get more students always, and to help more players. Impact Zone Golf, I think, we're getting a solid foothold in Southwest Florida, and we're starting to become much more well known nationally and internationally. And I'm hoping that they continue to grow with more instructors and in different locations. And hopefully I'll be part of that, and I'll be part of helping those instructors and overseeing some of those locations, and making sure that they're operating and running, to their best of their ability on the instruction side, not on the office side of it, but on the instruction side of it.
In golf, the 19th hole is a slang term for a bar or a restaurant that is on or near the golf course, very often in the clubhouse itself. There are a lot of great places to grab a drink here in Naples. What is your favorite 19th hole, and what are you having to drink?
Well, it's funny, but and that's a good question, but I really don't drink anymore. And the reason why is because of health conditions that have happened to me. But I don't drink much anymore. But when it comes to like 19th holes, and going out to have a drink or something like that, or to be in that atmosphere, there's a lot of different places around town, around the Naples area that I enjoy going to. But when it comes to after playing around the golf, I usually like to go to whatever the 19th hole is at that course, not basically leave the course. And the reason why is I think it's important to support the golf course, and to spend my money at where I played, and also spend it after, because that's going to help that course stay open. Same as when I play, I always make sure that I repair every divot and other ball marks and everything else, because I want the conditions to be good, because I know that's better for the course, which means the course is going to remain open, which means it'll be there whenever I want to play it.
I think you just became the best friend of every golf course in Southwest Florida and beyond. Very well said. Bernard, thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been on this show. This is a turkey we've just struck here, your third time, but this episode we focused on Impact Zone and all that you're doing with Bobby and the team there. So thank you again for coming on the show, and I look forward to seeing you around the club here at Tiburón. And, man, I can't wait to see what you and I work on next.
It's always a pleasure. And I not only enjoy speaking with you on the air like this, but I really enjoy working with you, helping you play better. And I really, really appreciate your friendship. I think we've been friends for a while now, and we've always just really clicked. And there's some people that you get, and you're one of those people. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing to help grow the game of golf, because it makes a huge difference. And the more people that we have that are like you, the better golf's going to be.
Man, I can tip my cap to that. That just made my day. Bernard, thank you so much again for all that you do, and maybe we'll have you on the show again, and you'll set some new records there.
That puts this instalment of the Wednesday Match Play in the books. But we'll be back next week for another exciting episode of the show. As always, remember to eat, sleep, golf.